"You'll never be as good as my ex," she declared, making sure the nearby couple heard. That moment, not her words, but the ensuing silence was profound, heavy as wet concrete. Forks hung in mid-air, glasses seemed to pause. I observed a droplet of wine clinging to her glass edge, yearning to escape. Across from me, Denise smirked, relishing in the victory she thought she'd claimed. It was our anniversary, 40 years since we first met, 36 since we tied the knot, 24 since we moved into the house I custom built, 12 since I stepped back and granted her freedom to discover herself through yoga, a non-profit board seat, and apparently recollections of her high school quarterback ex, as if he defined her life's standard. She looked at me, expecting a response. I gave her none. I completed chewing. After consuming, I daintily wiped my lips using the napkin as if appraising a steak rather than a relationship. I gave a single, steady nod. "I appreciate the information," I responded. Her companions at the table, our former friends, fidgeted awkwardly. Carol reached for the bill. Mitch feigned an urgent work call. The waiter hesitated between delivering my crème brûlée or leaving. Yet I remained still. Unmoving, I accepted the dessert. What they didn't understand, particularly Denise, was that my silence wasn't shock. It was a tactic. I had already been informed. The clues she left, like breadcrumbs from a woman who sought to be discovered but wished to appear victimized when she was, were not missed. The gym bag that constantly bore an unfamiliar cologne scent. Her unexpected craving for whiskey sours, his preferred drink. I had been forced to flip through a yearbook drunk by her in the past. The kitchen speaker played a 90s throwback playlist, sentimental and heartfelt. Dear friends, if you enjoy this story, please like and subscribe to our channel. It will motivate us to make more videos like this for you. The conspicuous memento. She adorned the emerald necklace he presented her in college, the one I unearthed 5 years ago, unopened in our attic and kept silent about. She asserted she sold it during a challenging phase. Yet, there it was around her neck again, gleaming like a blaring neon sign exclaiming, "I pine for him." Indeed, I wasn't taken aback. I was attuned. I observed her giggle as we departed the restaurant, linked with Carol, chattering audibly for my ears. He merely sat there, immobile. He doesn't even strive for me. They assumed I succumbed. That I'd retreat to the isolated man cave they seldom visited. That I'd brood over hidden wounds and fester while she flirted on social media and removed her ring for photo shoots. However, I wasn't brooding. I was gathering data. Merely 2 months ago, I engaged a digital forensics firm. Nothing extravagant. Just a friend's suggestion after Denise inadvertently transferred money to someone named Jay through Venmo. The message read, "Last night was fire," accompanied by 3 cold emojis and a wink. I feigned ignorance. "Is this meant for me?" she responded. "Oh, sorry. Intended for Janet." Of course, Janet. Living in Iowa, she views texting as malevolent. That apology cost her dearly. I had to secretly copy her phone data. Lawfully. Every image, message, note, app backup, and voice memo were now backed up in a separate cloud folder she wasn't aware of. I refrained from accessing it immediately. I allowed time for her to dig herself deeper. Time to fill the void with champagne. The chasm was profound by dinner, and the last shovel full had been thrown away in the parking lot. She inquired about my silence. I gazed at her as if she were an extra in someone else's movie. Then I opened the car door, entered without a word, leaving her to speak or boast. Let her message whoever she wished about the man she's trapped with. I saw it all. I had it. Every moment of affection, every whispered, "thinking about you." In her mind, the whisper seemed private between her and the ghostly presence she pursued. That particular night, having settled into slumber contentedly, I initiated action, typed a solitary phrase, "continue," made it accessible, accompanied it with a document, labeled it pre-anniversary modifications, dispatched it. As she reminisced about her ex, I was deleting her future one clause at a time. The initial communication landed in the group chat less than 20 minutes post our return home. Still undressing, I was seated there, looking helpless. Then came the punchline. To be frank, it was overly simple. I almost felt remorseful. Almost 3 grinning emoticons, a cat on a skateboard gif, and a selfie she took beneath the restaurant chandelier, me partially visible in the background, blurry and mid-bite. She captioned it as if we were still enamored. It sparked laughter among Carol, Lauren, and even Marcy, her cousin who wept on our couch when her boyfriend left her for a younger woman. Now she too was part of the joke. I chose to remain silent, refraining from retaliation or confrontation. Didn't make any disturbance. Just passed her in the corridor as she was engrossed in her phone, still chuckling and scrolling. She sarcastically called out, "No worries, Roger, you were a fantastic spectator." I briefly paused to check the thermostat, which she had raised when drinking cheap wine, making her sweaty and self-absorbed. I adjusted it back to normal temperature calmly. In my office, I activated the MacBook Pro that she didn't know the password for the secondary one, the silent one. The folder was already open, displaying an exit package, timeline spreadsheet of every questionable transaction from the past 18 months, screenshots of her duplicated messages, a scanned copy of an expired prenup she thought was null, and a new document, a revised property distribution clause marked "Ready for review by my lawyer." I typed a brief message, Miles. As discussed, initiate process under the public disparagement clause. Mid-entire documentation to court portal, maintaining confidentiality. Initiate subject. Once attached, the file named Pre-Anniversary Revisions PDF uploaded promptly without any lag in my internet connection. Paused for a moment before hitting send, feeling no sense of accomplishment or triumph, only a strange stillness that settled in when I realized the person living in the apartment across mine was no longer there. Denise was still chuckling to herself as I walked past the kitchen. Currently engaged in a video call with Lauren, regaling the toast incident as if it were some sort of triumph. I replied, "You'll never be half the man my ex was. You should have seen his face, Lauren." He appeared forlorn, like a wounded puppy. He thanked me instead. "Can you believe that?" Lauren's voice echoed through the speaker. "That's iconic. I swear, you should have been on Real Housewives." Did he even flinch? "No," Denise replied, taking a long sip. "Not a flicker. Honestly, I think he's losing his mind. Makes things easier." She laughed again. "It will be more challenging this time." Standing near the refrigerator, I caught a glimpse of her reflection in the microwave glass. Self-satisfied, clueless about the situation. She didn't understand that tonight she wasn't just humiliating a man but shattering her safety net. Timing is crucial. People rarely comprehend they're trapped until it's too late. By the time she drained her third glass, my lawyer had already filed the urgent documents for review. The house she thought we jointly owned was now marked for reassessment under asset evaluation. The account we shared, which she used to purchase new shoes last week, it was now under court seizure. She aimed to humiliate me in front of friends. What she actually did was provide my attorney with legal evidence in public. Silence is the strongest trigger, and I had just activated it. At 1:17 am, her laughter transformed. Not the boisterous, attention-seeking cackle from earlier that night, but quieter, intimate. She reserved that tone for inside jokes and quiet late-night conversations. I overheard it through the wall, not loudly, but clearly enough to pierce the pretense of the wall. She was in bed, her legs entangled in the expensive linen sheets I bought last fall, talking into her phone like a secretive teenager slipping past curfew. I didn't need to eavesdrop. I already had a copy. Denise wasn't aware her iCloud backups were mirrored. I didn't install spyware or anything illegal. I'm not foolish. After my friend's divorce, his life was burned. He showed me a recovery trick. Create a second iCloud device using the same Apple ID, register it discreetly, and let it sync. It's all legal, traceable, and belongs to her. Everything she saved, I saw. Every message, every live photo, even the ones she erased moments later. So when she typed, "Who did I embarrass tonight?" I saw the small picture she attached, me looking at my creme brulee, the background blurred. She trimmed the photo to exclude her wine glass and her friend's surprised expressions. The accompanying text read, "If only you were the one I returned home to," followed by a black heart emoji. This felt like a slap in the face digitally. His name was Jared. He had been the J from her botched Venmo transfer months prior. Previously, he worked as a bartender at a resort they visited 15 years ago. They crossed paths again at her friend's yoga retreat last spring, which she swore didn't have any cell reception. However, it apparently did, just not for me. The irony lay in the fact that he now ran a landscaping business with an inflated ego visible from space. She was attempting to rekindle their high school summer romance combined with a midlife fantasy akin to a tragic Lifetime movie. She believed this was empowerment. Mocking me in a private conversation made her feel like some kind of femme fatale. But this wasn't about seduction, it was about presenting evidence. At 1:21 am, she sent him another message. You were always better in bed, even back then. If only I hadn't compromised. I didn't even react. Rather than selecting download, I chose to do so on the zip archive that was synchronizing from her cloud onto my secure drive. Everything was clearly labeled, time-stamped, and could be admitted as evidence. It's not betrayal that causes pain due to infidelity, it's because of shattered trust. The insidious part is when they make you feel as if you'll never find out, as if you're too naive, too compassionate, too senior, too short-sighted to discern the truth. They make your silence seem like ignorance. However, in my quiet, I was archiving. By 2:04 am, her entire photo collection had been synced, including one from last weekend's girls-only trip. The one where she claimed they stayed in, watched movies, and drank tea. Strangely, I don't recall her friends having tattoos that read "warrior" on their hips or hands rough enough to belong to a man who works with brick 5 days a week. There he was, Jared, bare-chested, holding a champagne bottle in the background while Denise posed seductively. She named it DSCN_Wedding 434. Lackadaisical. Unoriginal. I sent it all to Miles, my attorney, with the subject line, evidence. Additional documents, combined with disrespect and blackmail. No commentary, no emotion, only facts. In the bedroom, I heard her phone vibrating on the bedside table. She chuckled, this time softer, as she typed another message. I chose not to inspect it. I had enough. The aim wasn't conflict. It was creation. Gradually, brick by brick digitally, I was constructing a barrier she would crash into. She believed she was writing a love narrative. I was writing an ending, and she had just provided me with the final chapter. At 3:12 am, Denise was sleeping peacefully next to an empty wine glass and an overinflated ego filled with delusion. At 3:13 am, I logged into our family's financial dashboard, quietly, precisely, with no unnecessary movements. She had never shown interest in understanding how it functioned. That was always Roger's area of expertise. Her skills, as she often boasted to dinner guests, lay in interpersonal relationships. In other words, she could flirt effectively, remember birthdays, and persuade waiters to give us free desserts. Yet, matters like estate structuring and tax-shielded investments were part of my realm. Tonight, that sphere ceased to exist for her. I commenced with our shared brokerage account nearly $500,000 in assets, an impressive sum for the man she dubbed retired and uneventful. A year prior, I had fortified barriers when our weekly routines started faltering. The trust was merely a vacant entity then. Tonight, it came alive. Funds transferred swiftly into the Calhoun Heritage Irrevocable Trust, an irrevocable move being crucial. Her name wasn't listed anywhere within it. She had never been. Calhoun, my mother's maiden name, was used in the documentation, just as a precaution should she ever show interest. By 326, the trust held the brokerage account, post-retirement real estate fund, pension rollover, and a small yet poignant addition, residuals from the patent I had sold in '09. At last, the house she believed it was ours. Chuckled at hanging her polite certificate in the guest room as if it held significance. Yet, that title hadn't been associated with us for more than 4 years. It was during my niece's law school graduation when we established Pinewheel Capital, LLC. I convinced Denise it was a tax write-off for her internship. She fell for it, hook, line, and Chardonnay. In reality, Pinewheel purchased our house with cash, quietly. I continued to pay the property taxes, maintain the yard, fix the gutters, but legally, we were tenants under a month-to-month agreement. The distinction between a landlord and a husband is merely paperwork, and I had plenty. By 341, I had filed a notice of reorganization with the county clerk, a routine, automatic process. However, it ensured that Denise's name would never appear in any asset audit. Her contribution to the property was limited to a Pinterest board and an overly aggressive debate about backsplash tiles. At 349, I opened a secondary checking account. Months hadn't passed since I last used it, settled in place on a gloomy day that had finally arrived. I transferred the remaining joint funds, $87,492.14, a complete transaction. Denise preferred using a black Amex with her name embossed on it, appearance over convenience. The shared card, though, linked to actual money she hadn't used since Easter. This proved beneficial. By 4 o'clock, I had redirected all statement mailing addresses to a PO box associated with the trust. I even altered the online profile picture. A fresh start. A symbolic change. A raven, not out of superstition, but because I appreciate the concept of a bird that waits, observes, and never forgets. I closed the laptop, filled a glass with water. She stirred in bed, turned over, mumbled something like, "NGH thermostat's broken again." She returned to sleep. Tomorrow she'd awaken believing she still had alternatives, still held power. My alternate self remained in readiness, biding time till her fit subsided. Yet tonight I turned into an unreachable entity. As she reveled in Jared's praises and brainstormed her next Instagram caption, I ensured every escape route was sealed. The investigation wasn't merely chilling, it was precise, meticulous. At 9:43 am, I relished a luxury long denied the luxury of waking up. Sunlight streamed through the blinds, casting long shadows on the wooden floor like soft applause in the quiet. I stretched, yawned, and ambled into the kitchen. French press, Kenyan roast, the reassuring hum of the refrigerator. I took my time. Let the world echo with chaos. This moment had been crafted to resonate in tranquility. Upon picking up my phone, the screen sparked like a Christmas tree in crisis. 255 missed calls. Denise, her sister, an unknown number. Yoga Susan, an unidentified one, likely Jared mimicking relevance, and numerous voicemails. Oh, the voicemails. First one was Denise, screaming. Unwarranted sobbing. This was animalistic. Why did my credit card get declined? I'm stuck at the gas station and someone has my wallet. Roger, not crying at the moment. She was panting as if she had run a marathon on arrogance and espresso. Next message. Her sister, Cynthia. Insincere sweetness. But on edge. Roger, I'm unsure of the situation. However, Denise is in hysteria. She claimed your house, the one you own, is locked. Changed locks? Are you all right? I'm confident this is just a miscommunication. Ah, that term again. Miscommunication. Just like infidelity is simply poor communication. The third one was my favorite. Jared's number. Brief, terse. Hey man, uncertain of the events, but Denise is highly upset. Thought maybe we could talk. Click. I didn't even finish it. I let the voicemail erase itself as if it wasn't worth keeping. Meanwhile, messages were pouring in like popcorn kernels under pressure. Roger, this isn't a joke. Are you intentionally ignoring me? The mortgage company said the account name was altered. What's happening with our funds? Why have you acted as you did? Each message grew more desperate. However, what alarmed Maya wasn't the tone. It was the timestamps. The first call was at 7:12 am, right after she tried purchasing coffee and her Amex was declined. She thought it was a glitch. Then her debit card failed at the gas station. By 7:30, she was at her sister's house, repeatedly calling me using Cynthia's phone. By 8:15, she contacted the bank. By 8:27, she likely uttered the phrase, unauthorized account modification, for the first time. And by 8:59, she contacted her lawyer. I found out because the bank's fraud department called me at 9:01 to verify. As I was pouring my second cup of coffee, I verified everything. I wasn't concealing anything. I was rearranging things. By 10:06, the last voicemail arrived from Denise. Softer this time, but more threatening. If you don't respond, I swear to God, I will make this messy. I will bring you down, Roger. You think you're clever? You think you're the one wronged here? Denise, not I, was the one wronged in the past. Now, I'm merely the man with the receipts. As I opened my news app, she made another attempt to call. I chose not to answer in the midst of her ringing. Let her simmer in her anger. Allow her to stay in the bubble where she always perceived me as inferior. She's yet to grasp that her dominance was borrowed, if not from my kindness, then from my tolerance, and I've reclaimed every piece of it. As she got agitated, I took a sip of hot coffee. Composed, posed, spotless. At times, retribution doesn't necessitate shouting. Sometimes it simply means ignoring the phone. By 11:02 am, Denise was behind the wheel, driving frantically, sunglasses that couldn't conceal the tear-streaked cheekbones. The phone rang repeatedly from her lap to the center console, still dialing my number every 5 minutes as if frequency could restore command. Lights flashed red. Horns blared. She was oblivious. Her knowledge was limited to understanding that her name no longer functioned at the bank, her cards were inactive, and the mortgage company mentioned a corporate reorganization. Her world felt like it was fraying at the edges. She required stability. She desired her house. The location with the rose bushes she falsified watering for social media. The kitchen where she accidentally burnt soup, but filmed herself arranging takeout as if it were gourmet cuisine. The upstairs bathroom she referred to as her truth teller because she claimed it made her look younger than Roger deserved. That house meant more than just walls to her. It was her stage. Consequently, when she parked in the driveway at 11:49 am, she anticipated returning to her domain. To climb the stairs, find you brooding in the den, and commence her monologue about the true meaning behind all this. Perhaps even shed tears. She excelled at crying when placed under pressure, but the house didn't welcome her. The keypad flashed red. Her key wouldn't fit. She made another attempt, more forcefully, shoving it as power seemed to mediate, then shifted to the side entrance. The same outcome ensued. Even the garage sported a fresh panel. Panic swelled at a quicker pace this time. Stripped of the structured turmoil of morning bank calls, this was raw, elemental bewilderment. She pounded on the door with her hand, then both fists, now shouting, "Roger, open this accursed door. What in the world is going on here?" Silence. The house remained still. She pressed her face against the window by the dining room, guarding her eyes from the glare. That's when it dawned on her. The chandelier, the one she insisted we install for atmosphere, vanished. The dining table swapped out for something streamlined, contemporary. Glass and metal replaced wood. No hint of the beige rug she splurged on from that extravagant boutique. No wedding photo in its frame on the shelf. And the most disconcerting part, shoes by the door. Not mine. Not hers. New ones. Women's. Size 7, perhaps. Black flats, orderly arranged on a mat she did not purchase. Her complexion turned ashen. She dashed towards the rear porch, aiming to open the door she usually left open for fresh air. It remained stubbornly closed. She shook it, thumped, yelled. A voice echoed from across the street. Denise. It was Harold, a retired man, widowed and excessively curious, who always tended his hedges as if they were battlefields. "I thought you had moved out last week," he said, surprised. "Hadn't realized you were returning." She gaped at him, blinking as though struck. "What are you referring to?" He scratched his jaw, seemingly clueless. "The younger woman with the curly hair, she moved in last Thursday, right? I assumed she was your niece or something." I greeted her. She said she was the new tenant. "By the way, the house looks fantastic," he added, sounding puzzled about the term tenant. Her head whirled. She faced the house again. The welcome mat no longer read welcome. It now read live deliberately. A fresh life had commenced in her home. Denise remained rooted for a full 30 seconds before she picked up her phone once more. No missed calls, no new messages. She rapidly typed, her thumb trembling. "Affirmative. We need to discuss. This isn't a joke anymore. Did you lease or sell the house? I have rights. "You can't do this. I will consult a lawyer." I had already looked at it. The text appeared in the archive folder in real time, joining the flirty messages from last night and this morning's outbursts. She attempted to call again, straight to voicemail. Across town, I sat in a downtown cafe, sipping espresso, reviewing the lease agreement my niece had drafted. 12-month term. Paid in full. Tenant, Claire Harper. My niece, law degree, impeccable credit, zero tolerance for drama. The house hadn't disappeared. It had merely found a new owner. And Denise? She was left outside a life she believed she could shame and still control. At precisely 3:06 p.m., the doorbell rang. Cynthia opened it, still in her robe, irritated. She was halfway through her second mimosa and disliked surprises, particularly those delivered by couriers bearing clipboards. Required signature. The man spoke impassively. He wore a brown uniform and carried a clean clipboard with a thick envelope. There was no return address. For Denise R., Cynthia interjected. "That's my sister," she said. "I'll wait," he replied, preparing his stylus. Denise appeared, barefoot and still on the phone from her 50th unanswered call to me. Her hair was disheveled, her eyeliner smudged like war paint. She looked as if she had run a marathon through legal ambiguity. She signed without reading, assuming it was a lawyer, the bank, or perhaps even a pitiful apology letter from me with flowers inside, as I used to send when we were 25 and still believed in gentle landings. Instead, she opened the envelope and removed the first document. It was a declaration of marriage nullification through trust dissolution. Not a divorce filing, not a request, a statement. It maintained an impartial tone but held grave implications. The trust that protected all her assets had been formally and irreversibly detached from her. No room for appeal. No room for negotiation. Page 2. Court document notification. Ownership transfer confirmed and authenticated. Stamped and signed. Official documentation. The house she found herself locked out of, never hers. The bank had completed the full transfer, and the new resident, Claire Harper, was legally recognized and up to date with payments. Denise held as much claim as a raccoon on the porch. The third page displayed a low-resolution, cropped image that left no room for confusion. Her phone screen, a message bubble, an unwelcome revelation. Beneath it, her face, devoid of emotion or surprise, suggested she was not mistaken. Unaware, she had been arranging a photo for the man she'd mentally disrobed throughout the year. The ex she vowed was a lesson, not a person. Denise gazed at it, her skin draining of color, as if someone had disconnected her lifeline. In the end, the world didn't crash in chaos, but crumbled in quietude. The note on the final page reads simply, "This wasn't about him. It was about you not seeing me." No signature, no threats, no closing remarks, just that. The world didn't shatter in a cacophony of screams. It disintegrated in silence. She sank onto the couch without uttering a word. Cynthia inquired, "What's wrong?" twice, but received no response. Denise gazed intently at the note, as if it had struck her with greater force than any courtroom ever could. The note didn't merely inform her of her loss, it disclosed the reason. She had always considered humiliation a means to assert dominance, tossed about like confetti while I stood below, grinning through clenched teeth. However, this was meticulously planned, orchestrated, immaculate. And for once, there was no one to impress. No spectators, no jovial chat group, just a couch, a delivery slip, and a truth she couldn't distort. This wasn't about her ex-partner. It was about her oversight. Me. She was late. Naturally, adorning oversized sunglasses that clashed with her attire and a crumpled blouse that seemed plucked from the floor of her sister's guest room. Her hair, typically meticulously styled, hung limp around her shoulders. Her posture conveyed rebellion, yet her hands revealed unease, clinging to her handbag as if it offered solace in a reality she yearned for but couldn't find. The cafe was a neutral ground, neither high nor low, midtown, and devoid of any sentimental associations. It hummed with soft jazz and the rhythmic purr of a quality espresso machine. I had arrived beforehand, sipping on black coffee without any additives, tasting the bitterness of the end. She recognized me, readjusted her glasses as though they were shields, striding over with an insincere air of calm. Without greeting or hesitation, she announced, "I don't understand what this is supposed to accomplish." Her arms folded defiantly. "You think presenting this strange legal charade strengthens you? It makes you petty." I paused, finished my coffee, and placed it back down. Deliberately, I slid the folder toward her with 2 fingers, maintaining composure. Quietly, I stated, "You claimed I'm not as good as your ex," I murmured. "I bring good news. He's no longer a factor." She questioned, "What's this?" I responded, "Evidence." It was documentation to aid in recalling responsibilities. Upon opening it, she discovered, first, a bank transaction timeline neither mine nor hers, filled with purchases, hotel stays, and withdrawals across various locations, timestamped alongside photos supposedly sent from different destinations. Second, GPS pings tracing her phone and car, her location histories traced lawfully using our shared auto insurance login that she neglected to update. Third, a collection of images the deceased investigator over 6 weeks, followed by Denise kissing Jared in the parking lot of a Holiday Inn express hours before informing me about her friend's wellness emergency, and another photo showing her booking a lakeside Airbnb with only 1 bed instead of 2, verified by the timestamp. Faster now, she flipped through the pages, hands trembling. Continuing my search for the clarifying page, I aimed to reshape the story, reassert control. However, I encountered the final segment instead. My own writings, printed and emphasized. "You excelled in intimacy. I yearned for you as my return." Roger merely sat there, a jest. The instant comprehension dawned on her face was evident. Not only did I discern, but I intended to. I hadn't blundered into this, I had crafted it. "This is beneath contempt," she mumbled, shoving the folder aside as if it might attack. "No, Denise," I replied. "You debased yourself. I merely saved the evidence." Her eyes flickered rapidly, tone strained now. "You could have spoken to me. We could have addressed this rationally, resolved it. After all, Roger, we share a past." I leaned forward, offering a faint smile that stung. "You had an option, a partnership or a production. You opted for the stage. This is your finale." She retreated, crossing her arms. "So now what? Are you seeking an apology? An admission?" I finished my coffee, taking one last sip. "You made your choice. Partnership or performance. You chose the limelight. This is your curtain call." I declined, she said, unmoving. No shrieks, no tears. It had been weeks, perhaps months, since such stillness engulfed Denise. The folder on the table felt heavier than ever, each page as hard as anvils. As I prepared to depart, I hesitated behind her chair. "You've played your part," I whispered softly. Now it was my turn to collect my winnings. I left without a final taunt, without a longing gaze. Just quietude. She remained seated, solitary at the table, clutching the proof that her performance had come to an end. The email arrived promptly at 8:03 and the subject line was straightforward. Mandatory appearance. Confidential mediation review. From an unfamiliar law office, formally addressed. No theatrics. No caps lock. No demands. Just a date, a time, and an uptown location. Professional, precise, surgical. Denise forwarded it to Cynthia with a face expressing exasperation and rolling eyes emoji. She arrived in heels that instilled doubt rather than confidence and makeup heavier than a morning call for modesty. Striding into the building as if still the lead character, she was the woman capable of weaving tales if she spoke quickly enough. The receptionist proffered water, which she declined habitually. Admission of thirst in her mind signified a form of weakness. A stern man, tall and composed in charcoal attire, opened the meeting room door. "Miss R, to your right." The room was chillingly cold, furnished with one long table, 3 chairs, and a muted flat screen displaying a still from the restaurant, her face contorted during a toast, eyes gleaming with malice. Wine glass raised. Then, video footage, her voice, crystal clear. "You'll never be half the man my exes were." Laughter echoed, louder than she recalled. Roger remained calmly chewing, motionless, unaffected. Her eyes flickered rapidly, hoping to switch off the image. "Is this some melodramatic production?" she retorted sharply. "Did he secretly film his friend?" Remained unanswered. The display switched. Scenes from a hotel lobby unfolded. Her check-in with Jared, yoga leggings, large sunglasses, her hand on his chest at the reception desk. They followed to the hotel bar, clinking glasses, his hand on her thigh. Then, on a cabin porch, Denise was curled in his lap, laughing, her shirt partially off, the cameras angled distant and elevated. The operator retreated instinctively, primitively. That's an invasion," she mumbled. The lawyer, still silent, pressed a button. Paused the video. The screen halted on her kissing Jared beside a rental car. "I suspect," he said composedly. "You labeled these as your weekends with friends." Denise felt her legs weaken. She grasped the chair and slumped into it. No one was supposed to witness this, she breathed softly. "We possess bank records, text messages, hotel reservations, all admissible," the lawyer added, pushing a file towards her. "You have publicly insulted your husband in front of numerous witnesses, you've been unfaithful repeatedly, and you've utilized shared resources for those indiscretions." She remained quiet. Her mascara was now showing signs of distress, hinting at the shock she was attempting to conceal. "Moreover," he stated, turning to the concluding document, "you violated the moral conduct clause in the prenuptial agreement and the perpetual contract, a fact I must clarify." Denise lifted her gaze. "This is a bluff. He wouldn't make it public. That's not his character." The lawyer maintained eye contact. "I'm not here to persuade you he would. I'm here to ask if you'd rather he didn't." There was no response. Then he reached into his briefcase and retrieved a pen. "These are the conditions. You relinquish any rights to the house, receive no alimony, keep your car, personal items, and a modest severance payment from the trust signed, not open for negotiation." She gazed at the folder, her name emblazoned above the words waiver of entitlement in cold font. Her voice splintered as she asked, "Did he truly record everything?" The attorney remained silent. He needn't have. The screen behind him conveyed its own message. Her past unfolded, her deceit revealed, her acts raw and unedited. And there she was not the woman she pretended to be, but the woman she truly was. All it required was a play button. The courthouse foyer reeked of polish and cold, sterile air conditioning, devoid of warmth or compassion, like it had forgotten the essence of empathy. Roger stood by the marble pillar near the exit, composed in a fitted gray jacket, his hands casually folded in front of him. No tie, no briefcase. Each envelope in his hand was cream-colored and heavy, made of durable paper. His expression betrayed nothing, not coldness nor cruelty, merely completion. Denise entered with haste, like a storm that ran out of force. She donned black as if in grief, yet uncertainty clouded whether it was her marriage or self-image she lamented. Her meticulously applied mascara smudged at the corners. Shivering from something other than cold, she pleaded, "Roger, hold up," half breathless. Can we just chat for a moment?" He remained unmoved, neither advancing nor expressing emotion. Instead, he regarded her like one surveying a charred dwelling. I assumed you wouldn't proceed with this," she voiced, her tone cracking like ice under pressure. "We've faced harder times, haven't we?" He extended the envelope without comment. She hesitated, then grasped it firmly, as if it might detonate. Silent and conclusive, it sat heavy in her hands. My words weren't intended to carry such weight. That night, she blurted out hastily, rambling now. The comment about Jared was foolish. I was intoxicated, furious, and impulsive. Roger finally broke his silence, composed, ponderous. "Understood. I knew you weren't serious. You're not even half the woman I believed you to be," he said softly, causing Denise's face to crumple. Her eyes glazed over, and she nodded once before quiet tears fell. The realization that the last few months couldn't be undone weighed heavily on her. As he leaned in slightly, close enough for her to detect a faint scent of black coffee and something ominous, he added, "It seems I was mistaken about you." Then he moved towards the exit without any shouting, guilt-tripping, or threats of what might follow. Only the sound of his shoes tapping echoed in the lobby as he exited, leaving Denise standing alone with envelopes still in hand, shuddering as people flowed around her, ignoring her distress. Inside each envelope was a finalized agreement, signed and filed, but no letter or parting words to be found. In contrast to some conclusions, this one is tranquil. For the first time in her existence, Denise understood that stillness can surpass any form of retribution in volume.